5, 4, 3.
All right, folks, don't go anywhere. You're about to meet somebody that does $4 million plus in commissions every year. And this guy even has a doctorate in leadership. Coming up next, Chris Craddock on Cliff's Notes. Real estate agents, are you struggling with the day-to-day grind, dialing for dollars, putting in hours of floor time with little to show for it? Are you looking for tips, tricks, and tactics to accelerate your career as an agent that will have you closing more homes, working with more clients, and earning more money than ever before? Hi, my name's Cliff Freeman, and I've spent the past 2 decades of my real estate career running one of the top brokerages in DFW and personally coaching over 1,000 high-performing real estate professionals across North America. I created this podcast to share the strategies and tactics you need to explode your real estate business. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. We guarantee it. We do guarantee it. Today is going to be a Hall of Famer,
yes,
right?
Sir.
I'm telling you, just hang on to your seatbelts out there. If you're in the audience, make sure you got a full pen and a legal 8.5 by 14 note-taking notebook so you can get all the nuggets we're going to drop on you today. We have a super special guest with us. But before we go over to Chris, Trelvis, Are we in mourning yet for the Cowboys or
Why mourning? I'm not sure why you.
Well, mourning, M-O-U-R-N.
Sure.
Like, are we the passing of? Is Dak going to be able to come back in this next game?
No. I think it's a celebration, if anything. I think that's more of an accurate word for it. It's
Okay.
a celebration, not a mourning.
We back, baby.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're
Yes, indeed.
we're ready to remain Cowboy fans for at least one more game for sure. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Cliff's Notes. You're not going to believe this young man that we have on the show today. Let's go ahead and bring Chris on. Chris, how are you, sir?
Other than here in the, I'm in the D.C. area, so my old former Washington Redskins now, but I was going to say something about that whole Cowboy thing, but yeah, I don't really have anything to say after our performance over these last few years.
Well, you guys have certainly had your share of controversy, as has Jerry Jones here, and he's not getting along very well with Robert Kraft now. Have you been?
No, I
listening
saw
to
that.
stuff?
Yeah, there's a lot of fodder going around the NFL between the coaches.
Definitely, yeah.
It's
Something
interesting.
about Roger's contract coming up for renewal. Roger Goodell,
Yeah. I hope he kind of finds his way out.
Yeah, something like that. Anyway. Well, man, let's just cut right to the chase here, C3.
Yeah, give a little
yeah.
blurb?
Let's give Chris what he is due here. This guy needs a little introduction because he is not your average realtor, real estate agent. So let's give Chris what he's due here, will you?
So Chris is a nationally certified life coach with a doctorate in leadership. Chris is the driving force behind REI Revive, the host of Uncommon Real Estate Podcast, a realtor, and an entrepreneur who runs multiple successful businesses in the Washington, D.C. metro area and parts of Richmond, where he actually resides. Chris is a consistent NVAR multi-million-dollar producer who produces over $4 million a year in commissions. In 2020, his team, the Redux Group, was number 20 in all of Keller Williams and sold just under $160 million of real estate volume-wise. Chris has been married for 20 years and is the proud father to 6 beautiful children. Wow.
Okay, Chris. So go get your dad right on the show, because obviously there's no way you've got 6 kids and you're as old as you should be to be married that long. What's your secret, man? Are you on Viome or something, or tell us that? Let's start with that first.
I'll tell you what, my grandfather passed a few years ago, and on my mom's side of the family, they aged super fast. On my dad's side of the family, my grandfather was the best looking old guy I've ever seen in my life. And I'm like, come on, keep those genes. Come on.
You definitely got them.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Chris, man, the road to where you are now, I'm sure most of us would appreciate, it probably hasn't been just a straight line, has it? Tell us a little bit about if you don't mind, let's just rewind a little bit and kind of go back to the early days. Just a little bit about growing up as Chris and sort of what led you in the direction of real estate. You certainly didn't start in real estate, I don't believe, right?
No, so my story is a little nutty. I was a mess growing up. Got involved with an organization called Young Life, changed my life, and helped me become the man I am today. And so I ended up going on staff with Young Life when I graduated from college. Got married in 2000. Went on staff with Young Life, and made, like, I think by the end I was making like 25 grand a year, which is great. But when you're trying to raise a family on 25 grand a year in the DC area, it doesn't work. And so 2003, my wife got pregnant, and I was like, man, I got to do something to put food on the table for the family. So I went to the library, because it was before Google was the fount of all information and knowledge, and checked out every book I could find on real estate investing, and just started reading all of them. And then just like an idiot, I mean, I didn't know anything of what I was doing. I just started knocking on doors, massive imperfect action, and of people that were going to foreclosure. And somehow I made 12 times in the next 4 months what I made in a year. And that was kind of what started me. It allowed me to continue doing ministry, living in the house that I'm in now. We bought the house that we're in here now with that. And then the money started running out in like 2011. I started, 2010, I was trying to sell my blood for $300 to buy Christmas presents for my family. 2011, I was just like, okay, I got to flip houses again. Started flipping houses, got licensed so that I could flip short sales, and then read the MREA, Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, and started building a team. I think December 2014 was when we launched. And then, just kind of followed the color by numbers model of that. And now I think I've got 13 different businesses and streams of income, and a number of them 7-figure streams. And it's been a heck of a ride, I'll tell you that much.
Well, that's kind of the short story there, but what was it like when you really recommitted? That was 2011. You got your team started in 2014. Building a team is definitely, people don't realize. You read MREA and, it's all outlined there nicely. And by the way, on our show, we love Gary. I was with Keller Williams. We love Gary Keller, the whole MREA thing. And we're going to talk about why you moved to EXP in a little bit, but we kind of consider MREA the Old Testament, right? And now there's a New Testament. And I just thought I'd throw that in since you were with Young Life. But, what was it like when you started? I mean, I built teams. We just built our team. We're up to 85 agents here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Tell us about some of the struggles and the things that you had to deal with going from a single agent to now a team your size.
Yeah. So when I was in ministry, you'd mentioned that went back and got a doctorate in leadership. I always led massive teams wherever I was. Cause even at the beginning, I mean, my team I would have been more profitable as a solo agent for the first year and a half than I was with a team. But if you're a disc profile person, I'm a high D and I'm a high I as well. Like the idea of building something without a group of people that I love to run with just sounds horrible to me. I love the idea of running with people. It just makes sense to me. It's a lot of fun. And, I love seeing other people succeed, and, winning together is just one of the things that gives me most joy in life. And so, I ended up getting licensed to do to flip short sales, because the banks were paying commissions on that. Then almost really quickly, they changed their margins so that you could rarely flip short sales. Although I just flipped a short sale a couple months ago, pretty successfully. But the reality was, as I saw that, they stopped allowing us to have these margins where you can flip them. And oh my gosh, my dog is deciding to be very loud in the other room. I'm sorry about that. And essentially, at that point, I was just like, okay, well, man, I can get a ton of these listings, a ton of these deals right now, but I cannot. And I could do them all myself, or I could bring in other agents that can start working on these, and we could really build this out together quickly.
So what was the first hire you made?
Well, the interesting thing, I know they say to hire an assistant first, but for me, Well, actually, no, we ended up hiring because I was doing some the flipping. I was started flipping houses in that time between 2011 and 2014, and so I had hired an assistant and then brought on a buyer's agent and a listing agent almost immediately as soon as we decided to start the team. So the listing agent was mainly working all the distressed properties that I had kind of figured out how to find pretty easily. And the buyer's agent was dealing with people that were calling in about it. And then we also right away we ended up getting a Boomtown subscription and just got their they were low quality leads, but man, we were just three hungry guys that were just working our butts off, smiling and dialing all day long. And so even lower quality leads were at the time we're still working out because we were talking to enough people.
Yeah, yeah. So you were working with Greer Allen to start with, and in that arena with Boomtown. And so how many leads were you generating initially, and how many leads do you generate today, for example?
Oh man, I just had our leadership team call. Our marketing director told me what the number was. I'm more focused on our lead conversion, although I know we got to focus on top line and bottom line. I'm really working on our lead conversion numbers, like getting those up in this market here. But I mean, let's see. We still have. I don't know. I'd be guessing if I told you exactly where we are right now. But I mean, our goal is that we're setting about 8 to 12 appointments every day.
Every day. Okay. 8 to 12. And how many buyer agents do you have on your team now?
So we're at 42 agents total, and with them, I mean, I think we're going to do between 250 and 300 million in volume this year. And let's see, we'll do. So it's interesting. Our inside sales team, we have our designated listing agents that will get leads from the inside sales, and then we've got our designated buyers agents that will get leads from the inside sales teams. But we don't have people choose one lane or the other. It's just company generated leads. We'll get one or the other on that front. So it's a little bit of a hybrid model from like the old guard of listings and buyer agents on there. But yeah.
And it's interesting when I just kind of casually mentioned the New Testament here. I mean, in MREA typically, because how many of us under that model, it was like a revolving door with the buyer agents, and because once they reached a certain position, you'd done a great job to coach them up and teach them to be great buyers agents. But really, in order for them to move up, they had to move out, right? Yeah. So, and we'll explore this a little deeper here about, why that's not the case now with EXP, but, so you've got 42 agents now, and you let them do both listings and buyers. Tell me about, do you have a certification process? Do they have to get script certified? What's the bar that they have to hit in order to be eligible to work your leads?
Yeah, so we have three different lead categories that we put people in. One is our inside sales leads. One is we have one of the ways that we built our business was I created a partnership with an investment group, a wholesaling group, one of the biggest ones in the country. And so we get a lot of their old, dead, cast off leads. We send them referral fees. They're licensed. We're able to send them referral fees on those listing leads. And then we have a number of sources like Zillow and others that will send us, which I mean, I know it's like using the Z word and the real, like so many people have their issues there, but we've got organizations that will send us buyer leads. And so we're kind of categorizing people on those fronts. And so in order to get leads from any of those sources, they have to go through, we've got a sales director that works with them to go through those. Their scripting. She'll be listening to calls. They'll regularly look at their numbers. Are they, what's their speed to lead looking like? What's their follow-up looking like? We'll do role play practice. And honestly, sometimes if they're not practicing or not on, we'll pause them from leads until they get where they need to go.
Right. Now, do you use Follow-Up Boss? I mean, I think you mentioned your Flex, right? So tell us a little bit about your software and your CRM and all of that good stuff.
So we're still using Boomtown just because that's what we started with. And I mean, I don't know, we've got something like 30 something thousand leads that all have drip campaigns and everything else in our CRM. And so just the idea of anything else, like the brain damage involved with changing over a CRM. Every time I talk to a friend that changes over a big database CRM, like I'm like, man, I feel like they're going on suicide watch for a little while. And I'm like, all right, let's keep away from that for a little while.
Sure. Yeah. And then talk about a little bit about your ISA department. Tell me, how was that structured? Do you have, who takes the inbound lead when it comes in? Who's the first one to hit that? Is it an ISA, or do you have sales development reps that hit the leads to scrub the lead, or what's that process look like?
Yeah, so we have 3 ISAs that are hitting the phones all the time for us. We have a relationship with that investment organization where they actually set appointments for us. So it's essentially the equivalent of an ISA department on their end. And then and then we've got a number of VAs that are working essentially just sifting through all the garbage. And then anytime we've got a hand raiser, they're bumping it over to our ISAs that are making phone calls, sending texts, all of the other pieces on that front, so that we can get warmer leads for the people that we know are tip of the spear, really, really well done, well scripted as far as what they're saying to buyers and sellers.
Yeah. And you mentioned earlier in the show, Chris, that your main focus right now is on lead conversion, and that's something that's very close to our heart, near and dear. Yeah.
Yes.
And we actually, I'm very proud to say we just hit 98% best of Zillow, and I think 8.3 is what our conversions are now. What do you do to tell me about how you work with your agents to help improve their conversions?
So essentially what we're doing is we're looking at, the set to Mets, right? A lot of that is, inside sales to Met, but, even if you're an individual agent, right? Like if you've set an appointment and you're not meeting with them at least a 50% ratio, but I think it should be better, but at least a 50% ratio, there's probably a problem there. And then Met to signed. And the way that we look at that is if they're not signing at least 50% of the Mets, then there's a problem with their scripting. And then if the sign to close, we say 50%, but it really, we're right around 73% from sign to close. And I really would like to be at about 75. We used to say 50, we would just do 50, 50, 50 as the goal. But yeah, I think it's 50, 50, 75 is really what we're pushing to be at.
Okay. Do you require your buyer agents to have a signed buyer rep agreement before they meet or before they go out to a house to show them houses?
No, we used to really, really push hard on that, but when we got into the Zillow Flex program, they really do not like us to do that at all as part of Flex. And so when we started looking at that, we realized that we just wanted to have, I guess I heard this phrase a long time ago: one company, one language. So we wanted to do the same thing across the board. So if we're doing this with Zillow, we want to do it with everybody. And so we're not requiring them to do that, although it has caused some pain, for our agents. I think personally it's probably best practices, but I do know that Zillow spent a lot of money figuring out how to squeeze the most out of every deal. So that's part of the relationship we have with them. So I'm okay with just trying to keep the same thing across the board, because it's just easier to hold standards if you don't have one standard in one lead source and another in another lead source.
Right. Well, I mean, that used to be the standard, was you had to get, an agreement signed before you put them in the car. But, I think that you're right. I think that, in this market, statistically, we know that the first person to get belly to belly with the prospect is going to have the best chance at converting the lead. So it seems like we're taking on a little bit more risk here by, not having that relationship cemented. But, Kyle Whistle he hates buyer tenant rep agreements. I don't know if you've seen Kyle's video on it or not, but he thinks they're a waste of time. And, if it wasn't for some important protections for the broker in there, I think that, just being able to earn somebody's respect before you ask them to sign a marriage contract, is something that's pretty important. And, you kind of have to demonstrate that out in the field. You can't, you can be really good on the phone and get that thing signed, but, we struggle with that as well. So a lot of your calls then that come in, your buyer leads on the Flex program are going to be voice transfers. Hi, this is Alex. Here's your Flex agent or Premier agent, Zillow Premier agent. What about the pay-per-click leads that you guys have in Boomtown? Do you allow your agents to work any of the raw leads, or do you scrub and get those all pre-approved before you hand them out?
Yeah. So the way we work it is anything new that comes through our inside sales department. Anything that is our old leads, we call it the pond. We just refer to it as Chloe Care. And we have a picture of a girl, like a stock picture named Chloe, that anytime people get auto drips, they come from Chloe. And so they just, we're like any of our agents that wants to make phone calls, or, we have a goal at Redux. There's a couple core values. One is if you want to do well, you need to, invest half an hour in personal development a day. And if you want to crush it, an hour a day outside of our team training. And if you want to do well, you need to have 10 conversations, not phone calls, but two-way conversations with somebody about real estate. But if you want to crush it, it needs to be 20 conversations a day. And so sometimes our newer agents or new to a market or new to an area says, I've run out of SOI I can call. I don't have past clients. I'm new. I don't have any open house clients I can talk to. Who can I talk to? So we set them up in Chloe Care, and they just call through our old leads, scrub them, and anybody they get. I mean, literally our new agents that actually do it, like routinely picks up at least a closed transaction a month just from calling through that.
This kind of leads in. I always like to try to understand a little bit about culture here. How would you describe the culture on your team?
Well, it's a team feel, but we're also, the joke that we always talk about, like the corporate athlete, right? Like I coached high school sports forever. I played rugby in college. Our lead sales guy is you guys.
I played at Rice 3 years. Yeah.
Let's go. What number were you?
I played second row and lock and eighth for a little bit. Yeah. How about you?
Oh man, I started off as a 15, a fullback, and then I moved over to a scrummy, and then I blew up both my shoulders, and I'll tell you what, between wrestling in high school and rugby and everything else, my shoulders, my knees, I realized I need to be in bubble wrap. I should have been like a ribbon dancer or something you just won't get injured, but. Yeah, but that whole idea as athletes, right? Like when I was coaching high school soccer, I would see the teams, and if you could not beat this idea out of them, and by beating it, and you know what I'm saying, but idea that you're running a wind sprint and they stop 3 yards short and walk across the line versus like run all the way through the line and then stop. It's that whole idea that you're gonna get out of everything what you put into it. You'll reap what you sow. And so when you look at the people that really do well in athletics, it's similar in sales, right? You're willing to take rejection. You're willing to put in all that hard work, knowing that if I work hard today, I don't get to raise my arm on the mat. I don't get the W like that day. I have to work hard and practice in order to get the W on Sundays or Saturdays or whatever it is. And the same thing's true in sales, right? We know that we're in like a 60 to a 90-day sales cycle. So anything I plant today, any phone calls I make today, I know that I don't see the fruit of that until 60 to 90 days later. And so that's that whole idea behind it. It's that we're uncommon people looking for uncommon results, and we put in uncommon action to win.
Excellent. So part of your culture must also have to do with self-development, and you have a doctorate in leadership. How do you help get these people to buy into investing in self-development, and what do you do? What sort of work do you do with your team regarding self-development?
So I've got a couple different pieces. One, when COVID hit, I remember reading about the Navy SEALs where they said, you never rise to the level of your aspirations. You always fall to the level of your training. And so we decided that we were going to do a half-hour training every single morning, just to kind of get that into people's minds. So I'll do a sales training on Mondays and Wednesdays for 20 minutes, and then we'll do a breakout with role play for the last 10 minutes. Our lead sales guy does a sales training on Tuesday mornings. We do a case study, like a issue that went bad, that went south, because if it went south for whatever reason, somebody else is going to see it at some point. And how did we solve it, or how should we have solved it, even if it crashed and burned? So we'll do a case study on Thursdays, and then Fridays is kind of our flex days. Sometimes it's a vendor talking, like a lender talking about the financing contingency or something like that. So that's what our training looks like there. But then we also, this was actually one of the big keys to our leveling up as a business. So I personally do a lot of personal development. I've got a doctorate, for Pete's sake. I will read 2 books a month, and then a third book is a reread of a great book that I've read in the past. Like I reread Good to Great for the first time in a decade, and I was like, oh my gosh, this hits so differently with who I am today versus who I was a decade ago. And so that's what I do. And I remember my wife saying to me one time, she's like, Chris, I know you teach your team a lot, but does your team understand the price that you pay? Like how much you're taking into what you're learning and what you're doing, so that you can get the results that you are personally getting. And that kind of shifted a little bit about the way that I taught my team. I no longer would just try to give them a fish, but try to teach them how to fish. Hey guys, we're going to do a book of the month. Hey, this is the book I'm reading. Hey, these are our masterminds I'm paying to be a part of. Hey, let me tell you about the coaches that I'm paying to have, all of the different pieces where, for me personally, it's about 10% of my income that I spend on coaching and masterminds. And so, I want our team and our agents to understand the importance of personal development. So anyway, that's a long answer to a quick question.
No, it's great because we're super big on personal development as well, and we've got an event with Tony Robbins that we do here in Dallas with Brent every year in August, and we've got a coach. We're doing an NLP certification in self-leadership on a cruise in December. Yep. For folks, and it's just, that's at the top of the income period where the wealth generation is created. That's all about leadership, and so I'm always excited to hear what you're doing, in those lines. So you mentioned you read 2 books a month plus a third. Give us a couple of book titles here that we need to have in our library, will you?
All right, so give me a topic. I've got like scaling a business. I got my favorite ones there. Sales, my favorite ones there. Like motivation. Okay. Give me a topic.
Sales, number 1.
Sales. Okay. Let's see. Pitch Anything or Flip the Script by Orrin Clapp. Those are probably 2 of my favorite sales books that I've read in years. Love those books. Just reread The Way of the Wolf. Whatever you think about Jordan Belfort, I'll tell you what, that man is a darn good salesman. He can sell ketchup popsicles to women in white gloves, and there is stuff you can learn from that.
Yeah. No, Chris, you didn't know this, but a couple of years ago, C3 and I went out to Beverly Hills to Jordan's house and had a mastermind with him for a weekend.
On his rooftop, yeah.
Yeah, it was quite an experience, to say the least. So I'm sworn to secrecy about some things that I can say and some that I can't. So, but okay, so there was sales. How about what about self-development? Back to the the 5.5 inches between your ears. What do you recommend for that?
Oh man, I'm gonna pull up my Audible, but I'll throw you a couple of them. The book everybody has to read, and it's an old classic, is How to Win Friends and Influence People. That's one of the best ones. There's a book that just blew my mind that I read. If you've ever read any of Robert Cialdini's stuff, his book Influence is probably so good. I liked his other ones. They were really good, but man, Influence was just mind-blowing. I just finished reading the Bezos letters about Jeff Bezos and how he thinks through his business. Let's see. You mentioned Tony Robbins. Anything Tony Robbins is really good. The Hard Thing About Hard Things, especially in this market. Anybody that's a business owner in this market should be reading that book. Oh man, I could keep going if you want, but those are some of the really good ones.
No, those are some great ones. Let's shift gears here just a little bit. You've been in the business how long now?
Well, started flipping houses in 2003, but started building a team and doing retail business about December 2014.
But you had some experience with the Great Recession and a big shift in the market. What are you doing now to prepare your agents for the changes that we're seeing in the market? How is it? Are you training differently? Are you looking at more of the listing side? What's different about the way you're going to approach the market in 2023?
Yeah, it's interesting. I alluded to this earlier. I came over to EXP for a good reason. I love EXP. I think EXP is awesome. When actually people were trying to bring me over from Keller Williams, they were, saying like, just trying to talk trash about KW. I still love KW. I think Gary's so smart and all the other things. I just think EXP is a better model, right? And I think that's where it's at. But with that said, I still think it's probably Old Testament because there is new things that need to be done. But the book he wrote, Shift, I reread that just recently, and I think there's a lot to it. And the real takeaways that we've taken for our team is, one, cut everything you can. Don't cut to the bone, but cut all of the fat and don't cut muscle, but cut everything else so that you're ready, right? And so we've been, slicing and dicing. I think we have about $40,000 a month in overhead that we've gotten rid of since this has started, and we probably need to do another 20. Those are going to be more painful cuts. The other piece is, what are you going to do to do more with less, right? And so part of that is talking to our agents. I've been just hammering our agents. So helping our agents understand that they have got to make more phone calls. If you're not making, I'm a high I, a high D as well in the DISC profile, but so I don't like to be as hard on people as sometimes they need, but I've just decided that this is what a good leader does is, again, I said, I'm a Christian guy, Bible says the wounds of a friend are better than the kisses of an enemy. And so for me, I'm like, man, I need to help our agents realize that when they're making 5 calls a day about real estate, talking to 5 people, the real question there is, are you part-time or are you full-time, right? Like 5 conversations a day about real estate. Well, and I literally, in our last call on Wednesday, I had everybody just post in the Zoom chat, what are the reasons why we don't make our calls? Let's put all of our excuses out there. And literally, there were probably about 150 excuses, and all of them are good excuses. But we also know that, if we want to fight for our limiting beliefs, we get to keep those limiting beliefs. And so we're like, okay, listen, you can have all these excuses you want, but here's the deal. Like, you got to make your calls. And then this is the other thing I decided I personally am going to do was I decided that I was going to work really, really hard. I've got 13 streams of revenue. I've got a busy, busy day, but I said a good leader leads from the front. So what I'm going to do is, I'm not going on all the appointments and everything else. I've been out of production for a long time, but what I want to do is prove that no matter what else is calling on you, that I can make 20 calls a day, 20 conversations a day to past clients, mainly sphere of influence, which are my friends and family and the past clients that I like. So, and I've got a lot of them. So I just decided I'm going to prove that if I've got 13 businesses and I can still talk to 20 people a day, then there's no excuses there. And I'm going to lead from the front, lead by example on that. And so that's what I've been doing in order to help our agents really say, hey, there is no excuse.
Yeah, amen. I remember Gary Keller saying one time when I was watching him teach that I guess an agent asked him, what should my day look like? And he said, if you'll get up early and prospect 2 hours in the morning and do that every day, I don't care what else you do. You can go play golf in the afternoons. But if you'll just prospect 2 hours a day, you'll figure it out. And, really that's the case. I mean, everybody gets their license, and I think that they expect the money tree to start dropping dollar bills in their front yard. And it's really, it's a contact sport. And if you're not out there making contact, then there's no way that you can play at any kind of a level. Very interesting. What is so talk if you would? You talked about EXP and about you love the model and so forth. What's different over here? What was it that attracted you enough to want to move your business over here?
Yeah, so it was interesting. Obviously, I got hit by everybody about EXP. I mean, I was getting calls all the time, and I wasn't really interested. And I really didn't like the way that everybody was like, check out my stock, check out, all this stuff online. Like that didn't resonate with me at all. And the other piece that didn't resonate was so many people would just try to trash KW to me. And I'm like, man, I'm a loyal person. Like KW has treated me well and it's good. But the reality is, and I've taken this in all my sales training to our agents, right? If you're up against another agent, like if you want the tallest building in a city, you've got two ways to do it. You can either tear down every other building or you can build a better building. And so for me, that's the way that I look at life, right? Like I when other people are just trashing and trying to tear down an organization that I cared about, that didn't work for me. But when somebody said, hey, let me show you a taller building, a better mousetrap, and also, like I began to understand the history of real estate, right? RE/MAX gutted the real estate industry with like the 50% brokerage fees with their like $2,000 a month desk fees or whatever they were, right? And then KW gutted RE/MAX when they came in with a very education based and profit share based organization, right? They gutted RE/MAX, and it's just this shifts in how the industry works. But then now. I kept hearing about EXP, but I'm like, oh, the model doesn't work with the whole virtual model. Like that's just crazy. And then COVID happened and we're like, oh, wait, the model works virtually. It does. And instead of paying our local team leader and our regional leader and all these other people all the way up, I'm the one that's like teaching most of the classes, like why hand that out to everybody else? Why? And honestly, when most of the market centers that, our agents would go to any trainings, it was guys that were doing like 20 or 30 deals a year, which is good. No knock on them. That's a good income for people. But the cool thing with EXP is like the training, you're hearing from people that are world-class across the country. Every single day, there's a training that you can dial into that you would pay $500 to $1,000 to be at a conference to hear them speak. And these are the people that are training you daily. I see that it's a better model.
Yeah. Go ahead, C3.
I was just saying, I like that connection you just made with, just lost my mind there. Anyways, yeah, I digress.
The connection I'm thinking about here is, how did most people that move over here, first of all, if you ask them, their biggest regret, it's that they didn't move sooner. What was it that for your agents, how is this a better platform for you to grow a team than you had in the past?
Well, honestly, that was another piece of it that really was shifting to me. So anybody that listens to my podcast or listens to me talk much knows that the biggest piece I talk about is wealth building, right? Wealth is when your money works harder than you work, right? Like, because for the average agent, you go on vacation, your income goes on vacation. You get sick, your income gets sick. Like, how do you create wealth where your money is working even when you're not? And so a couple of my agents, and I really think the biggest problem with real estate agents is they don't buy their own product. And so, my agents, my leadership team, everybody hears me talking about this all the time. And they came to me. I had two of my leaders that came to me and said, hey, Chris, I think we should really look at EXP or one of these models like this, because we love you and this is great. And you have a great team here. And we're so happy to be on the team and we want to run with you for life. With that said, we also want to build something too that's a little bit bigger. And, buying a rental property that cash flows $500 a month, that's a long game. And it looks like there's other options that can get us to a place where we can cash flow better. And, and all of a sudden, one of the things that hurt me or helped me was I think of myself as a super loyal guy, literally going from, selling my blood, like trying to sell my blood for $300 to buy Christmas presents for my family in 2010 to being a multimillionaire with all these businesses many times over. Like I was just so thankful to the organization that I learned a lot of that from. And so I had this loyalty that was just right there with me. But then all of a sudden I realized I'm like, I need to be more loyal than that. I need to be loyal to my people and to my family and give them the best opportunity for their growth. And To me, I think that's what a good leader does, is they serve their people well. And I felt like that model served my people better.
Yeah, leaders eat last, right? I'm sure you're a Simon Sinek fan
Yeah.
as well.
Sure.
So what's your, I mean, gosh, obviously you've done some great, huge things in the business. Tell us what's your BHAG, over the next 5 years? What's that big, hairy, audacious goal for Chris?
Well, when I came over, honestly, I'm just going to be honest. Speaking of wishing I focused on something sooner, it wasn't until about 4 or 5 months ago that I really focused on the revenue share with EXP. Actually, the Build conference there in Dallas that you were talking about. I went to that, and that was one of the first times I really could see that at a high level. And so for me, I'm in this in the world with like wholesaling and fix and flippers and investors, and I do some coaching in that world, and a lot of my best buds are coaches in that world. And so a number of these major influencers, 250,000, 500,000 followers on Instagram, YouTube, all the other stuff, have started coming over and joining me so that we can create this agent investor network. And so, I mean, heck, I see a path to with their influence and the way that we can help this many people learn to be agents and investors. I really do believe that we could get to $1 million a month in rev share.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, we're trying to lead the path for you. So, just keep praying for everybody, and we're going to pull everybody with us, I promise. But, that's it's so great. I love to hear you speak about helping others and serving others. And we always talk about the money in your bank is just a marker of how well you do serve other people. And I know that just by the people you hang out with, Lars is obviously a very dear mutual friend of both of ours, and we're very thankful for those relationships. And I guess if there's one more thing I want to ask you about EXP, you mentioned that you get to be taught by people that are top in their market, not just in their market center, but top in their in the country. What other collaboration or difference in the way that agents are willing to share in the openness here have you experienced?
Yeah, it's just really cool because everybody that I've been able to meet in the whole EXP world, I mean, obviously there's the whole company as a whole, but then on the other hand, it's like there's a lot of us that are abundant minded, right? We just want to give and help other people, and we know that you reap what you sow, so that's really powerful. But the thing that I really love is EXP puts in alignment. I literally just spoke to 150 investors last night. And the thing I could say to all of these guys was, I'm like, listen, I want to help you regardless, but here's what's really cool. If you join us with EXP pays me to help you. So one, I get to help you guys and have the joy and satisfaction of seeing my friends succeed. And two, I get paid for it. How cool is that? And so to me, I just think that model of like, putting everybody's interest in alignment, man, it creates this fuel for a fire in these relationships where you want to help people anyway, but now you can do it without having to say, well, I'm trading being productive in my personal life or my business life or whatever for this, because now if I help people, I can get paid for it. How cool is that?
Yeah, and the one word that I think just really resonates with us is alignment. And that's key. Alignment in relationships, alignment in business, in finances. If everybody in your circle is aligned, it's amazing what you can accomplish. It really is.
Core values.
Yeah, the whole 9 yards, brother. All right, Chris, we are, man, I knew this was going to happen. We're pushing up against the top of the hour here, and they're going to kick us out to let some real pros come in and use the studio a little bit. But I am so excited to have you on the show. I'm sure the audience is probably frantically trying to finish up the notes they're taking, and this has been a great, great show, C3, I'm telling you.
A lot of rider downers.
A lot of rider downers, as we say here on Cliff's Notes, for sure. Hey, Chris, it's great to have you here. Would you be open to coming back maybe in 6 months or so, and we'll do a little checkup from the neck up and get back with you and see what trajectory you're on at that point?
I'd love that, brother. And one thing to all your listeners, this is something that was so helpful for me when I was learning. People just were so generous with their time. Anybody that wants on Instagram @CrowdRock, if you send me a DM, now I've got a handful that I'm working my way through, but me personally, I'll answer any questions. give any help I can do, anything I can do for you. I'll personally answer any questions on DM. Not my assistant, but me. So yeah, if I can do anything to serve anybody, feel free to reach out, and I'm happy to do it.
He's also on TikTok.
On TikTok, yeah.
I was catching up on some of your videos. You have a lot of videos on there.
Yeah.
So
I'd love to talk with you about, some of your marketing and stuff too on another show if we could do that.
Let's do it for sure.
All right. Excellent. Chris, thank you so much. You and I are going to catch up after the show. I know we have a couple things we were going to talk about, but ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Appreciate you being here in our audience today. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be here, would we? That's right.
Yeah.
And Trelvis, thank you, sir. Always great to know you're in the pilot seat back there. And Dak Prescott, come on, man, you can do it this time.
Let's go number 4.
We're going to do it. We're going to make it happen. All right. We'll see you guys next week on the next episode, 134, I think, something like that, right back here on Cliff's Notes. All right, folks, tune in to Cliff's Notes every Thursday at 1 o'clock Central for the tips, tricks, and tactics to explode your business. I